had a huge impact in the way I approach the sustainability arena in Singapore, the way I approach the market. It has helped me to develop my skills in sustainability, advocacy, and in learning in general about Singapore.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a new travel podcast by me, Payal Nayar. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone. Today I am in conversation with Susan Calderon Urbina. Susan is the founder of Sacha Botanicals, a campaign that is focused on promoting a sustainable lifestyle that does not compromise the effectiveness of beauty products by offering natural soaps and solid shampoos that respect our bodies, which is so important. And more important is that it respects the planet. Is also the recipient of the Best Content Award in the second edition of the hashtag We Got This, which is organized by WWF Singapore. I think it's an amazing program. It's a youth-led incubator, which is empowering a generation of sustainability advocates on social media. Thank you so much for joining me today, Susan.
Thank you very much, Payal, for having me here. I'm very happy to share with you a bit of my story and a bit of Sacha Botanicals and all the things that I'm doing with this project.
Excellent. So before we get into Sacha Botanicals, I have a quick question. When and how did you move to Singapore from Peru?
Oh, wait, that's a bit of a long story. I actually did my MBA in Singapore in 2008, a couple of years ago. And that was the first time I was in Singapore, and I was there until the beginning of 2010. And then I started working in Singapore in 2018 after I did my PhD.
So then how did you start a low-waste natural hair and body product brand? What inspired you to do that?
Well, of course, I've always been interested in products that are good for the planet, that are sustainable. But aside that, there is a more personal reason why I started Sacha Botanicals. A couple of years ago, I was detected with a hormonal disease, and this is called the Hashimoto disease. Basically, my immune system produces antibodies that attack my thyroid. So this was a very scary moment when I realized this, and the doctor told me that stress could generate this, and I was also told that even parabens or silicones that are typically present in personal care products, in shampoos or body gels, etc., might have contributed to this condition. So it was a really shocking moment for me when I realized that the shampoo I use every day could be harming my body. So then I was already using some products, some natural products, but I started to realize that not all the ingredients listed in these products were actually good for our bodies or even for the planet. And I remember how my mom, I'm from Peru, so my mom used to create shampoos as well and formulate shampoos as well for us for when I was a kid. And this brought to me the idea of creating my own soaps and shampoos. So I studied for doing this. I studied natural cosmetic formulation. And that's how everything started. After I shared my products with my friends, they were so happy to ask for more, and they urged me to share my products with others. It's a summary. This is how I finally launched Sacha Botanicals.
Okay. And what is low waste? Because especially in context with your products, because low waste is something that, what's the principle behind it and how you as a brand align with it?
So I know many products claim to be zero waste, and that is okay. For me, it's important to be real with my brand and with my consumers and with my sustainability journey. I want to show that every change counts, but also I don't want to feel bad if I forget my reusable Tupperware when I buy takeaway in Singapore. So I kind of allow myself to be imperfectly sustainable. And this is the same with my brand. I want to provide products that are sustainable, but I understand that my products are still not completely zero waste. I'm in the process, and I can only claim to be low waste in that sense. Yeah. For example, when I ship my orders, I try to reuse the boxes I have at home when I receive some other shipments, etc. But I also want to provide my consumers with a nice experience. And this is the idea of being low waste, or in the process to be zero waste for me.
Okay. So I think you're being very honest when you say that it's not zero waste. So you're not claiming that your products are zero waste, but you're working towards it becoming zero waste. So there's a lot of, I guess, formulation. There'll be a lot of trial and error before you're actually able to come out with a product or products that are completely zero waste. And that's very, very interesting, because I don't know how many years it would take, or how long does it take, and how much of experimentation does it actually take for you to go through the trial period to eventually say, okay, at the moment, of course, it's low waste. So typically, how long did it take you to actually come up with the shampoo and your other products? I think you also have a soap, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have solid soaps, shampoos, and now I'm also introducing lip balms. Oh, so nice. This is my new baby.
Okay. So how long?
Yes.
Yeah, how long does it take? I mean, the trials must take a fair amount of time, and I feel patience as well, right?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was formulating for me, so I didn't really keep track of how long it takes me to formulate. But now I'm, for example, in the process of formulating a conditioner bar that complements my shampoo. And it's really difficult, and it's really taking a lot of time, because the process starts when selecting the ingredients. And I want to be ingredients, or to have ingredients that are plant-based or plant-derived, that are natural, that are low waste, and that are biodegradable, and that don't harm our bodies or the planet. So having these requirements, very high requirements, are very difficult. In Singapore, it's difficult to get ingredients that match these type of requirements. For example, the fact that a product is natural, for example, essential oils, it doesn't mean that it cannot harm us. It could harm us if we don't dilute it in another oil. So it's not only choosing the products, but also learning the practices, the correct practices to use these ingredients. And then I go into formulation, into learning the different benefits of these ingredients. And then I have a prototype, and my first tester is my husband. I say I don't test in animals, I only test in my husband. And he's happy to help with that testing. And when it passes his and mine and my approval, let's say, then I share it with friends, or even consumers that nowadays tell me, I want to test your products before you launch it in the market. This is a very long process, because after my testers try the product, they have feedback, right? And then I need to incorporate this feedback and to change the formula, considering many elements. For example, the Singapore weather is different if we are in Europe, for example. Singapore is very humid, it's very hot. So not only how it feels the product, but also how good the product will be during the shipping process. I don't want a product that melts during shipping. So all these things I need to consider.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
Where do you, one, source the ingredients from, if you don't mind sharing? And two, where, once you've done the formulation, then where are the products actually produced, manufactured, and shipped from? Is it from Peru? Is it from Peru?
No,
No, okay.
No, I do everything in Singapore. Of course, I need to bring the ingredients, and I try to reduce the footprint by bringing ingredients from Australia, mainly, or Malaysia, or essential oils from India, for example, which is a very good source. But I bring all these ingredients, and I realize also that there are some ingredients that I cannot find in the region with all these requirements that I was mentioning before. So if I travel for work, then I try to source these ingredients and bring them with me to avoid all this travel as well. Once they arrive in Singapore, for example, my soaps, I need to fulfill the standards from the Singapore Ministry of Health, and I produce my soaps in a soap studio. Because when making soap through the cold process, traditional cold process, then we need to use lye. And lye could be harmful if it's not managed with care in appropriate conditions. So I go to a studio and then I produce the soap. This soap goes through the saponification process, and they need to rest from 4 to 6 weeks. I prefer 6 weeks because then the soap lasts longer. And then I store them in my house, and then I ship them from there. I produce in small quantities, so it helps me to keep my products fresh for a long time.
Yeah. What are the kind of choices and initiatives that you've taken when it comes to packaging so that you're minimizing waste?
So in the case of my soaps and shampoos, I pack them in paper, for example. This helps me to reduce the use of plastic. I could use plastic, and probably I could produce in larger quantities, and then humidity wouldn't be a problem. But I prefer to use paper, and this also limits my production. I choose suppliers.
Otherwise, if you use plastic, then you're actually negating the whole work of creating something which has low waste. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
As much as possible, as much as I can. So it's also important to choose the right suppliers, and that is important for me, again, as much as I can, that these suppliers follow sustainable practices. So not only me, but also the suppliers I use. For example, the ink my suppliers use to print my logo in the packaging, if it's sustainable or not, if it can be biodegradable or not. That is also important for me. I need to do this. So in many instances, I need to use suppliers that are outside Singapore, because sometimes doing this in Singapore can increase the cost too high. And it's also important for me to keep the cost reasonably low, so I can offer a competitive price for my consumers that allows my business to grow and to continue providing sustainable solutions for my consumers. So that is an example.
Okay, so how do you educate your consumers? Because clearly there is a lot of awareness now, but I think awareness is one thing, but to actually be able to have good practices when it comes to consumers, I think is completely different. So how do you, I know you're in the business of marketing, consumer marketing, but I mean, just give me some tips as to how you do this.
So, for example, when I sell my products in markets, I really like, because I can talk to people directly. And I tell them, if you are going to buy this solid shampoo, I'm not going to lie to you. If you don't take care of it, it will not last long. One bar of shampoo can last 3 months, but you need to keep it in a soap dish so it drains all the water after you use it. If you keep it in water, it will dissolve, because it's a dissolvable product. So it needs to, the consumer, as you said, needs to be patient, but also it needs to be more responsible, more conscious for the choices that we make and how we use our products. I always tell my consumers, one bottle of shampoo is like 95 to 98% of water. By choosing this soap bar, you don't have all the water, but you have all the concentrated ingredients and natural ingredients that can actually improve how good your hair looks, and also not harming the environment or your health. Yeah, so these are something that I share with my consumers, but of course I also use social media to educate, and in that sense, social media, it's a great tool for me to reach a larger audience. It's important for me to be present in markets because I can do a higher impact, but at the one-to-one level. But in social media, I try to also disseminate the benefits of botanicals, the benefits of using certain products instead of using products that could harm the environment and also our health.
Okay, interesting. So what are your long-term goals with Sacha Botanicals?
Many things, many things that I need to remember to be focused. So, of course, in one side, I want to develop my range of products, my offering. I'm trying to be focused on being low waste and having ingredients that are good for us, and also to reduce the use of water in products. For the moment, I only have products that have none or minimal water content, and I want to keep this as much as possible. If I see a demand of products that contain water, like, I don't know, liquid soap, and I find it reasonable to include that in my line because it will help consumers to be closer to natural products, then I will do it. But for the moment, I think my products have great reception, we can say, and that is something that I want to continue doing. Like, for example, developing a conditioner bar, solid conditioner bar, developing oil-based products without water, like serums, etc., to add benefits to consumers. In the other side, I also want to expand my business, of course. Nowadays, I'm only focused on the Singapore market, but I want to reach other markets as well. I still have a lot to learn from the Singapore market. I know about marketing. I teach about marketing. I teach marketing, but at the same time, I also feel that as a Peruvian in Singapore, I still have a lot to learn from the Singapore market and the variety of profiles that we find in the market.
Yeah, so you think that culture is a very important factor, do you think?
It is a very, yes, I think it is a very important factor. Culture, but I also think it helps me to reach people. For example, if I talk to a Chinese person, they are very focused on traditional medicine as well, just like Peruvians. So that helps me to connect with them and to tell them, these were the practices that were done in the past. In the past, we didn't have a synthetic shampoo, a commercial shampoo. We were using natural ingredients to take care of our personal care. And in that same way, I talk to other consumers from different cultures, and I try to find something in connection with them to explain them and to share the benefits of these products.
Okay. So we can't end this conversation without talking about the WWF Singapore incubator, the youth-led incubator.
Yes.
And how did you actually get onto it? Were you approached? Just a little bit about the process that you had to go through, because I think it's quite an interest. I think what's important is to engage the youth. And that is the first step because the youth today have a lot of ideas. There's a lot of drive, but some young people don't have a channel. So if there is this incubator that WWF has organized, how beneficial because you've been a recipient of it, how beneficial do you think it has been for you in person? And in general, what do you think are the advantages of this kind of program?
Yes, I'm very thankful to the WWF for accepting me in this program. And let me share a bit about this program. The week of this program is basically a global youth sustainability incubator program. And it has the WWF Singapore involved, but also the Temasek Foundation. It's a very important program for youth. And the goal of this program is basically to empower youth to become sustainability advocates. And for me, this has had a huge impact in the way I approach the sustainability arena in Singapore, the way I approach the market. It has helped me to develop my skills in sustainability, advocacy, and in learning in general about Singapore. And And as you say, I was the winner. I was recognized as the best content winner for the We Got This program in the second edition, year 2. And this has helped me to become more effective as a more effective sustainability advocate, and to make, hopefully, to make a difference in customers and consumers' lives, and also maybe in the beauty industry in the future, I hope.
Yeah, you're absolutely headed in the right direction. And I wish you all the very best. And I've really enjoyed talking to you, Susan.
Thank you very much, Payal. It was a pleasure for me to talk to you and share my story. If anybody needs help in getting into the process of the sustainable journey, there is no right thing, the right way to do this, but there is always a starting point. So if people want to start doing small changes, as I said, my sustainable journey is not perfect. It's indeed very imperfect.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.